I'm back with the 2022 GPX Moto FSE450R, and I got the new boot came in. There it is, the boot right there, the rubber piece, a fuel filter. People have been asking me about this. It's updated. It looks like a billet piece for the fuel injector up there. I'm not quite sure how this all plugs in, and I'm not sure I had the orientation. First things first, I don't really have it all back together. Just take off the seat here and the tank, just pop that off. I don't have anything bolted back down, and that will be off here in a few seconds. I'll take a quick look just to see if I could maybe do away with the engine mount up here on the other side and be able to reach in there and be able to get that off and put on the new one. We'll see. I don't know. I'm doubtful. We'll see what happens. Hopefully this video is going to help other people out that get the updated boot and get that other piece, or just buy that piece. And yeah, so let's see what happens. Well, so far this is where I'm at. I got out the metal piece here. The torn boot's still on. I have to pull that off. And all I did was remove this bracket, the other side bracket of the engine. Here's the injector holder. I mean, basically this one looking prettier. Here's this. I haven't transferred over the rubber seal. Gotta put that over to here. But otherwise, I see the difference now. So it's hard to tell straight on, but okay, lay it like that. This one is tilted off. That's the update. So look down from this way. See, it's tilted off. This one's straight back. I don't think it really changes the injector location, but it changes the hose is bent that way. We'll see. That means this is slightly longer, might be slightly harder to get on the new rubber boot, which this is the new rubber boot. So I'll take off the old boot and we'll compare those. As you can see here, new boot on the right, old boot on the left. So they made this one shorter because that black piece is longer and turned off to the side more. You can see the tear, rip, whatever you want to call it. So it probably started off small and got bigger and bigger until the bike wouldn't run right. So it did look, I don't know if you can see it in here. Try towards the light. It's a little dirty in there, got a little dirt in, but I didn't run it far or long, so I think we'll be good to go. It's not enough to harm the engine because, you know, I got it right back to the rental house and was like, okay, that's not running right. So I'm going to try to put this in without dropping the subframe. And as you can see, here's what I have going on. It wasn't really too bad. One thing you'll want to do is you'll want to twist this guy so it's more flat, because mine was, this was up and down. It was hitting the boot, and yeah, that was no good. You know, you couldn't slide off. Now with the boot on, at least the old one, I could slide that connector on and off, which I would prefer have it like that. Just for whatever reason, you need to access it. And it was only a slight tightening and we're good to go. So at least I can remove everything. We'll see if I can get it all back in there though, right? I don't want to break anything. So that's the trick. Removing's one thing, because an old boot I didn't care about. I can squish it, whatever. I got it in there and I didn't have to mess with the subframe. So I trimmed the boot here, was one tip to add a little clearance, but the best option that worked best, because it felt like it was cross-threading on this one bolt because that boot was pushing out because the bolt is so long, is I just found a shorter bolt that would clear the trimmed boot I did, and then it's threaded in there good enough. It's not going to go anywhere. And a little blue Loctite, it's not going anywhere. So the new unit's in. I don't think the injector is moved at all. It's in the same location. You can get to this 8 mil up here. I finally tried it out with a normal extension wrench. I just jammed it in there between the harness and got to it because I was having a hard time threading it back in into this new body. And I still need to put this on, hook up the fuel in the tank. I got this sensor back on. That's how I have it. Let me shine the light in there. So let's see, like that. So I have it flat, that way I can get that connector on and off like so. Just press and it comes off and back on. We'll come to the other side here, and I didn't mess with that regular rectifier, I do believe. Got the sensor back on here. Be careful with it. Everything's in, everything's on. This side's bolted down. Like I said, I was able to get the boot and the new black piece in. So I did the boot through this side. You kind of have to squeeze it a little and get it on. Oh, one tip on the boot is it has 2 tabs on it. They do not line up where you need them to go. One side does. This side here that I trimmed, so towards the engine, that little tab lines up with the tab. The one over here does not. In fact, that tab, just put it down facing down here on the bottom. Face it on the bottom. Because at first I had this one lined up on the carb side and I'm like, wow, this is not working. Wait, the orientation of the boot is wrong. So I then took everything out, twisted it around in my hand. I was like, oh, this one lines up. That one does not. So that's a tip that will save you countless frustrations. But otherwise, yeah, you don't need to drop the subframe. All I have to do now is probably pry the engine just a little bit to line it back up to get the bracket on here, the engine mount. And I'll basically be done, and I'll bring you the end product here. So I'm just buttoning everything up. I got the mounts on. You'll need a 14 for the back. You'll need one of these Torx. Let's see, what size is it? It's a T40. So you'll need a T40 for these, a 14 mil for the nut on the back side, which this side, the right side of the bike, that one's kind of a pain to get to. Remember to put it on before you put the sensor back in. Put the sensor in last, I guess. That way you have more room for your wrench here. And getting your fingers in there. You'll have to, at least on this one, it was so tight, I couldn't move the engine. That side, the left side went on fine. Right side, you can't move the engine. The engine was in, it's just it's so tight. I put these 2 in first, lightly, and then I basically drove this one in, screwed it into this bracket until it went through, and then reached in there with 2 fingers, 2 hands in, one from the back side, one from up here, and rotated the nut until it was locked on, and then tightened everything up. So loose, then tighten everything up. But yes, the verdict is you can change the new boot and the billet fuel injector housing part there, the metal part. You can do that without dropping the rear. It's done. All I have to do now is put on the tank and see if it fires up. Let's try it one more time. I am good to go now on the FSE450R 2022 model year with the updated boot, with the new bracket. I think that's all one unit because of the angle. The bracket is, you know, turned as I showed versus the original. So I think that's all one new unit. So the guys over at GPX Moto should be sending you one. If you have one of the first 2022s, you're going to probably have a problem. I think they're just sending those out to people. Request one if you're worried. And yeah, and it wasn't too bad, just playing with the little nuts and stuff and learning. Hopefully this made it a little easier for you, and knowing that you also don't have to drop the subframe, which is pretty cool. And also, I'd like to end this video with, check out my buddy Crash Hard Enduro, wearing a shirt here, sporting his gear. It's awesome. He's going to be selling shirts in the future, but check out his YouTube channel. It's not monetized yet. Let's get him the sub so he can be monetized. Have a good one. Stay well, stay safe, my friends, and get out there and ride. Bye.